All right. Listen, you don't need a real estate license to do or close deals, okay? But if your paperwork is not dialed in, you're just gambling your entire deal, right? So what I want to do now is I'm going to list out some of those major documents that you're going to need along the way. If you don't know what these documents are, that's perfectly fine. At this stage in the game, these are just vocab words for you to look up and understand what they mean, but I'll give you a quick breakdown. So the core docs that you're going to need are the purchase agreement, the assignment of contract, if you plan on signing it for a wholesale fee, your title commitment, which is going to come from a title company, and then disclosures, obviously, those are a part of any standard real estate transaction. And then you want that HUD or that closing statement, right? That's going to be telling you where the money's coming and going. If you're wholesaling, you're going to want to be transparent and make sure. The only other thing that I would add to this piece here is the memorandum of contract, right? That is a very important piece. So let's go over the purchase agreement first. So the purchase agreement is, as simple as it sounds, instructions for escrow. What does that mean? It means it's a piece of paper with words on it that you give after signing and verifying that that's the right person, which we'll get into here in a second. Is one of the major things that wholesalers make a mistake of. And it's going to detail the parties, it's going to detail the property, it's going to detail the terms of the agreement, and that is going to be given to escrow to be, then steps will be taken after that to set up a promissory note, to order a title report, and do all of those things. So the purchase agreement is very, very important. It's also referred to as an A-B contract when we're wholesaling, when we're investors, when we're double closing, or any of these other things, right? So that's your A-B contract is your purchase agreement. A purchase agreement can also be a BC contract because you are selling the property to an end buyer, meaning you are either wholesaling, or if you're flipping, you have a purchase and sales agreement with your agent or whatever the case may be. So the purchase and sales agreement, or PSA, is very, very important. The assignment contract is also very important. So we can go into, at a later time, the difference between a marketing fee and an assignment fee, because they are not the same thing. Just because you don't understand the difference doesn't mean they're the same thing. And a guru said it a while ago. They are not the same thing. There are ramifications for both of those things. But for this video, we're just going to talk about the assignment contract. That assignment contract is assuming that you've already got an AB. You've opened up title. You need to open up title. But you have an AB contract, and now this is your BC contract, that assignment contract. If you're assigning it, then you don't need a purchase and sales agreement. You just need this assignment contract, because what that's going to do is it's going to take your position on that AB contract and assign the rights or the interest of that agreement to that person or entity or whomever. So the assignment contract is very important. And then another big piece for all of these things is a title commitment. And what exactly is that? Specifically Schedules A and Schedule C, right? So Schedule A is going to list all of the people that are associated with the property. They're going to list all of the other things, and they're going to detail things that are mentioned in title or Schedule C. Schedule C is going to be all of the debts and who's owed what where. So when we talk about going to title to make sure that there's no liens on the property other than, say, a mortgage or whatever the case is, there's no mechanic. I've seen this a million times, where sellers don't even know they have liens on their property because they may have or may not have done some nefarious shit back in the 90s, and a savvy contractor or something to that effect put a mechanic's lien on their property, and they didn't know. They thought they got away with not paying the plumber $400, and it's coming back to bite them in the ass. 10, 15 years later, because that's still got to get settled. So what does that mean, right? So title commitment is going to tell you all of these things, and then it's going to tell you all it is inputs for you to solve the problem, right? You're just working on a giant Rubik's Cube right now, and you're getting more information. A lot of people make the fatal mistake of, oh, well, I have a contract, everything is downhill from here. No, the game has just started, folks. And that's what I love about real estate or wholesale gurus that just show you that they locked up 17 contracts. I'd be interested to know how many they closed, because with 17 contracts, there's a lot of back and forth and there's a lot of work. And so if they're doing 17 contracts and closing 17 contracts, fantastic. Highly unlikely though. But that said, right, so the next big piece, right, we talked about those core docs from the title commitment, is the disclosures, right? So if you have lead paint, foundation, any of the issues, right, when you're selling a property, so even if it is as is and you know something about the property, I know the foundation is messed up, I know that the roof is about to cave in, those are disclosures, right? And that's part of any transaction. You're supposed to disclose the things that you know about the property, because you're supposed to, naturally, it's good business, right? That's why the law's there. And then there's two final documents here. At the end of the transaction itself, you're going to have the HUD-1 form. That form is what you hear from wholesalers all over the place, which is HUD up or shut up, right? If I knew more about technology, I'd show you the 400 different HUDs that I've been a part of, right? But that's the final document that shows where the money's coming from and where the money's going. And sometimes when you have an assignment contract in there, you can do something called a split or a blind HUD, where the buyer will get one HUD that shows all of the money, right? You can never hide an assignment fee, but you can shelter the seller from being able to see it through the form. This is some nefarious stuff that wholesalers do. I wouldn't even say it's nefarious. I would just say it's part of doing business, just because you don't want people to see how much money you're making on something like this. I get the intent, but if you have the right conversation from the beginning, my friends, you don't need to worry about this. But again, you're going to hear that. You're going to hear it opposite from a bunch of other people. This is how I do business. You do it however you want. But the HUD is basically that, right? So you can split those HUDs to show that it's just the purchase price for the seller, and then the buy side, you can never hide the assignment fee from both parties. So the buy side knows that you're getting an assignment fee, and you can do it that way, right? So the assignment fee or the marketing fee will show up on the buy side of the HUD, not the sell side of the HUD. And if you're trying to, quote unquote, hide it from both parties, your only real option is to double close. Right, and that means that you have more closing, you have double your closing costs, you double title fees, you cover all that, you double all that stuff to literally hide your assignment from both parties, right? I don't do things that way. I just have conversations, and when I talk to buyers, the first question I ask any buyer that comes across my desk is, do you give a shit how much money I make? Because I don't care how much money you make. It's such a joke to me that they're like, well, I don't think you should be making $20,000 on an assignment. I'm like, you have no idea what I do, good sir, ma'am. I spend $12,000 to $20,000 a month in marketing, and you're telling me I don't deserve $20,000 for one of the files I put in front of you? We're not even going to get into that conversation. I just know that when dealing with you, I need to have a quote unquote, which is a complete bullshit statement, reasonable assignment, right? And if I don't have a reasonable assignment, then I'm just going to double close, and you're never going to be the wiser. Right? So it all depends on on who you're working with, right? And I choose to, at the most ability, if they're the right buyer for the seller, especially when it comes to creative, I'll get out of the way and I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. But if it's just a cash deal and we're going back and forth and I have the rapport with the seller, I have everything that's going on, I've done all the right stuff up to that point, I'll just double close and I just won't do business with you unless I absolutely have to. And so you're tripping over pennies, I'm not going to play that game. So, if you're wholesaling, this is part of it. You just heard me say this. If you're wholesaling, be transparent. Tell people what the hell is going on. Now, I would say there's nothing unethical about this, right? And this is how we typically do it is, I am the buyer, right? I don't care if it's in Louisiana or if it's in, like you hear me say Saskatchewan all the time just because it's a hilarious name of a city in Wisconsin, right? Who the hell lives there? I don't know. But the point is, if you're going to do this, to be transparent, making sure that everyone has all of the information from the very beginning, that's the main piece here, is just have the right conversation from the beginning. And how I do it is I use my inspection period. I organize or communicate and negotiate a fair or reasonable inspection period. That inspection period is for me to do my due diligence as the buyer. I'm not lying. I want to buy this property. And in fact, I can buy the property if everything you said is right. Because I've done a lot of underwriting, I've done a lot of comping on this, I understand what I want to do with it, and I have 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, depends on what you want to do, because an inspection period could literally be whatever you want it to be. So that said, that's what I do, and before the end of that inspection period, trust me, with 3 to 5 days, barring some crazy shit, I should know if I want to buy that property or not, and I'm getting back on the phone with the seller. Listen, I told you that I may not be the best buyer for this, and I want to come back to you and give you the option to either cancel this contract or move on to something else, but I'm still pretty damn confident that I can help get you that money. And I'll tell you what, my price was here. I might even be able to get you more money if you'll allow me to go and market this. Now, I'm not talking about the MLS. We're not talking about innovation here, right? I'm just talking about, let me go put this in front of my buyers. Let me go market in front of them and see if we can come to somebody. Because I know people with deeper pockets than me. Remember, I only flip a couple of files a month, right? I'm not talking about wholesale. I'm saying as a buyer here, right? So it has to be the perfect deal for me, but I know people that'll snag up deals for no reason. Right, seemingly to us, right, it means nothing, right? They're like, absolutely, they don't care. And they'll move like this. Does that sound like something that might interest you? And at that point, I get an extension to my inspection period, and we are now on the right side of the conversation with us being on the same side of the table with the seller to say, no, I'm not your buyer. There's nothing wrong with that. If you heard me say this over and over, and you'll hear this on Tuesdays when I do this, no is a perfectly acceptable answer, so why would I lie to them and tell them I'm the buyer? Furthermore, do some dubious bullshit by going past my inspection period because I got them to sign a $10 EMD. I get $10 EMDs, but I also don't do fuck shit, right? I don't go out here and screw people over. I have good communication and I talk to them about what's going on. I look at it and again, I see no ethical issue with me saying I want to be the buyer. Do I think there's a slim chance I'm a buyer? Sometimes, especially the deal I just sold in South Carolina. Right, I'm not going to South Carolina. I don't like South Carolina. If you're in South Carolina, I don't care. It's not my jam. Come hang out with me here, right? But I do have a lot of people, and I've got contractors in that area too from other real estate investors that I know, to where I can bring this to them and say, listen, I'll bring the money, you bring the contractor, let's go make some money. So I'm not lying when I say those things, but you can lean on my experience and say my partners, right? And that's a trick we'll talk about another day. So be transparent, and especially if you're wholesaling, make sure that you're transparent with your title company. Now, understanding your title company is very important, because these are professionals as well. And more recently, I've been seeing title companies that if you were to tell, this is a bad incentive in my opinion from the title company. It just incentivizes wholesalers to lie, which I don't appreciate. Because it's hard enough for wholesalers to have a good name out here, let alone having to lie to title companies to not have to. This is what just happened recently, and I've seen it now on 2 different occasions from 2 different companies in 2 different states, where if you tell them that you plan on assigning this contract, they won't open title. And this is my last little piece here. Well, I'll go over the memorandum in a second, but one of the common mistakes is that people won't handle, and this is the catch-22 here, people won't handle title issues until the last second. They're like, I don't want to do this until I find a buyer, because they know they're wholesaling. My point is if there's an issue with title, you need to get that fixed now, because sometimes that stuff takes 2, 3, 4 weeks. And by the time you find a buyer 2, 3 weeks into your contract, you've now added 2, 3 weeks on top, and we had an agreement with the seller that we were going to close on a certain date. And so when I do a 30-day close, that means the title better be on their shit. And if the title company is telling me they didn't open up title because I told them that I was assigning this contract, then I'm never going to tell you that I'm assigning the contract, because I need that fucking title open so I can see Schedule A and Schedule C and pivot if I need to. And I need to do that on behalf of my buyers. I need to do that on behalf of my sellers. I need to do it on behalf of you, title company. So I don't agree with that. It's coming out, and if you see that, go for it. Handle that, however you wish. But for me, I'm just like straight up. I'm like, yes, I'm assigning this contract, but you need to open up title, or I'm going to go find another title company that doesn't do dumb shit. I get their intent. I totally do. There's a lot of people out there that are opening up contracts, and title companies spend money on that title report, right? Part of the deal. I totally get it, but that's the game that you guys stepped into, and I shouldn't be penalized because there's a bunch of dumbasses out there. It's that simple. So anyway, off my tangent here, back to the point here. Memorandum of contract, that is the final piece. I do not put a memorandum on every file that I open. Why? Because it's a pain in the ass. I have to go out, I have to get this thing notarized, I have to get it over to the title company, then they're gonna, or vice versa if you have to go record it yourself. And then right before you close, you gotta go and do a bunch of extra paperwork to remove the memorandum that you put in place. It's easy to say just put a memo on everything. That's short for memorandum, right? I just don't agree with it. It's a waste of time. If you have the right conversation from the beginning, then when you start to get that sketchy feeling, which you will, when people start to pull back, then you can do your memorandum. Now, mind you, a memorandum doesn't cost a lot of money. Again, it's just an extra step that's a pain in the ass from time to time. So it's still a very important thing. So what is a memorandum of contract? It protects your interests legally, which means that you have the right to purchase this property. And another form of this that people talk about is clouding title. That's exactly what this does. So that if they were to go sell to another person, or let's say that they were under contract for somebody else and they were trying to get out from underneath you and they ghosted you or whatever, yeah, throw a memo on there if it makes sense, right? But then there's other action steps that you have to do, and I'll talk about this on later videos, to make sure that that thing actually holds up in court. It's not as easy to say that you can just file a memorandum and then one day you're going to get paid. There's action steps that you have to do, and if you're not doing them correctly, you're literally just wasting your time. So once again, the memo is as needed, and you're gonna have to use some discretion there. If you have questions, you have an example that you want, throw it in the comments and let me know, and I'll give you my professional opinion. Mind you, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, none of those things. But I have done this for quite some time, and I've gotten paid on 2 different memos, and I've probably only sent out 15 or 20 of them, right? But again, they're dominoes for the future. So there is a play for memos, just use them logically. And so the last thing I want to cover here is the common mistakes, right? So not verifying the seller's identity. I can't tell you how many times this has happened where we got to, day 10, day 12, we're already past our inspection period. We want to buy this property. And we get to the point where there is an executorship, or there is a power of attorney that was never disclosed, or there is a party on there, a secondary lien on the property in somebody else's name that is no longer in their right mind to make decisions, right? So all of those things happen. So you need to make sure that you're verifying that thing, all of those things at the very beginning. So you can do a quick probate corporation check, and you can find out a lot of that stuff. And we'll talk about that on another video. But the common mistakes, the last one I would talk about is waiting for close fixed title issues. I briefly touched on that with the changes that some title companies are putting forward. But again, the intent here, and this is why there's a drastic incentive for these bullshit policies coming from title, for them to just get lied to, right? And so, because we need to fix those issues as fast as possible. And so I'll tell you this. Starting on Tuesday next week, and every Tuesday moving forward, Bracken Charis and I are going to be doing this stuff live, right? You're going to see us negotiate contracts. You're going to see us negotiate buyers. You're going to see us fill out assignment contracts and purchase and sales agreements and novation documents and everything else that goes in that. You'll see me live talk to title agents. You'll see me live talk to buyers, sellers, investors, everybody, right? And then go through those documents as we go forward. So if you're in my Discord and you're watching that and you think that it's something of value, then all you got to do is just drop me a like, comment, or whatever the case is, so that I can see your hand in the air and I can start doing that. So one of the final pieces I'll say about that Tuesday thing, which is just going to be a stream to our Discord so that everybody that wants to get involved can, is I'm going to start giving away free stuff too. So one of the big things that I'm going to put away is my checklists, right? So all of these things are in checklist form for my company because I spent the time to strategize and make sure that my system is ironclad so that anybody that steps in knows exactly where they stand, right? Who they're working for above and who they're working for below, right? Because our whole intent here is to save time. So I'm dropping that full checklist next week on Tuesday in my live stream, but then I'm also going to give a set of docs for other different types of transactions. So it's not just going to be cash or creative or anything like that. There'll be more to it. But I'll also be giving away a free skip trace list for my markets because I want some healthy competition and I want to help you. But that's only going to be to the people that show up and participate. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, catch me on Tuesday next week. Thanks, guys.